Fuck, I've had a really itchy nose for the past 3 minutes as well. Oh, now that I've fucked up, I can rub it. Oh, thank God. When you've got a nose this big, it needs a lot of rubs, okay? Kia ora and welcome to another episode of Experience Bar, where we're turning video games into cocktails. My name is Jack and I'll be your bartender for this evening, so I show you how to make a drink that can make even the dirtiest Wastelander feel a little bit fancy. The Dirty Wastelander and its cousin, the Rakish Wastelander from Fallout. Let's get started. So, let's start with the Dirty Wastelander, the classic recipe that I think's in Fallout 3, it's definitely in Fallout 4, and it's pretty simple, right? It's made up of a few ingredients. First of all, mutfruit, and we've done mutfruit a whole bunch of times on the show before, but I'll run it through again. Mutfruit seems to be a catch-all term for any fruit that looks kind of weird. It changes in shape and like color across every single game. Personally, I think in Fallout 4 at least, they look a lot like blackberries. So we are going to be adding just a heap of blackberries to our mixing glass. To that, we are going to add 2 ounces of whiskey. I'm using Famous Grouse, but you don't have to use Famous Grouse. It's just, don't use a really fancy one for this, okay? Use one you like, but it's not going to be a huge addition to the flavor profile of this drink. 2 ounces of it. And we are then going to muddle this with this very obnoxious rolling pin, because I forgot to bring my muddler. And we are going to take our Collins glass, pop this to the side, and strain our mixture into here. And you might be asking yourself, what kind of Fallout scavenger is just gonna happen to have a bunch of cocktail making equipment on them? I don't really have an answer for you, but if you just try and make this in one glass, muddling all of this mush into it, it doesn't work, okay? It's really gross and you end up just swallowing chunks of blackberry at very inopportune times. Then we're going to add ½ ounce of lemon juice. This is not in the game recipe, but it makes the drink taste better. So we're just gonna add it in, just only ½ ounce. And lastly, we are going to be adding Nuka-Cola. Nuka-Cola, all right? You can use any cola you want, so long as you call it Nuka-Cola when you serve it to your guests. Just top up the glass. And at this point, you're done. You could add a garnish to it, like a little lemon wedge, or add a straw, but this is basically the Dirty Wastelander. And, you know, it's not actually bad. It's not actually bad. With the amount of Famous Grouse that we put in there, that's a pretty dominant flavor profile, but really it doesn't taste a huge amount different from your regular like whiskey and Coke or Jack and Coke. The blackberries adds a little bit of fruitness in there, but it's not super interesting. I reckon we can go for something a little bit fancier. So I'll be showing you how to make a kind of inspired version called the Rakish Wastelander. Cool, so that is the original recipe Dirty Wastelander, but we're going to be making a Rakish Wastelander now, which is a little bit more complicated, and you might struggle to scavenge up these ingredients in the capital wasteland, or the Commonwealth, or Appalachia, or wherever you happen to end up, but if you get your hands on them, they make a pretty tasty drink. So for this one, you're going to need a mixing glass about 1/3 to halfway filled with ice. To that, you are going to add 2½ ounces of whiskey, quite a lot, and ½ ounce of Chambord. The reason we're adding Chambord to this is that I wanted to retain the whole like fruitiness of the Dirty Wastelander. It's one of its like key ingredients. So Chambord is a black raspberry liqueur. So it's not blackberry technically, but it's pretty close. So that's what we're gonna use. And we're gonna finish this off with 2 dashes of orange bitters and give it a stir. Okay, and that's enough. So we're gonna grab our coupe glass. Now, just a quick reminder, guys, people always ask me where I get these from. Go to hospice shops, go to Red Cross shops, go to charity stores. They're like $2. They're so cheap, and yes, sometimes they have a few scratches on them, but they still look great, and they just raise your cocktail game. Everyone will be very impressed if you serve them something in one of these instead of a pint glass, right? Enough about the glassware. Let's get into the drink. So Very easy, just strain it on in. I'm not gonna double strain this. I was tempted to just then, but we don't actually need to. And finally, just gonna get lemon peel like this, hold it like this, and squeeze it like that to express oils over the drink, and then just slot it in like that. And there you have it. That is the Rakish Wastelander, a drink that's kind of based on a martini in terms of the ratios, but we're using whiskey instead of gin, Chambord instead of vermouth, and we've added a couple dashes of orange bitters in there, which is actually one of the original ingredients for a martini if you look back to like the 19th century, but it just fell out of fashion. I personally really like it. But these drinks don't happen without a lot of support from our community. So here, this one goes out to Ethan Watson, our patron of this episode. Thanks for the drink, and to everyone else. Cheers. Yeah.
Hams and other sweet treats. Get them while they last.
The Rakish Wastelander is a little bit different from the Dirty Wastelander in quite a few ways, but I wanted to retain the kind of mute fruit thing, but instead of having a nasty slurry of blackberries at the bottom of the glass, I instead decided to use Chambord, which is actually black raspberries, so it's ever so slightly different, but like I mentioned, mute fruit is a catch-all term, so hey, it fits. It's very important when making this drink that you pick a whiskey that you are very, very fond of. I have used Famous Grouse simply because it's what I had available, but there are lots of other whiskeys that work very, very well with this. This is one of the few cocktails that I would say use a single malt. Use a single malt that you really like because the flavor of the whiskey is very, very important for making this good. The orange bitters, it kind of just adds to the aroma more than anything else. Don't let the name bitters fool you. It doesn't make the drink bitter. In fact, the Chambord kind of makes it a slightly sweeter version of what you might expect. By expressing the oils over the top as well, we're kind of doubling down on the aroma. Again, doesn't affect the flavor too much, but does make it smell great as you go to sip it, which is part of the experience. I hope you guys have enjoyed yourself as much as I have. You can catch up with us on Discord, on Reddit, on Twitter and Facebook. If you really like what you've seen here, give us a like, give us a subscribe, maybe even become a patron. We do have some cool, unique recipe books exclusive to our patrons, including a Dungeons and Dragons one, a Witcher recipe book, and a Elder Scrolls one that's on the way. We're creating new content every couple of weeks. Hope to see you then, but until then, cheers.